Hi YouTube, Big Apple here again. Filming from my iPhone today, still can't find my phone, so just work with me here. But today I'm going to be talking about the Streamlight TLR-1 series, and I have two different TLR-1s, but the TLR-1, the 1S, the 1HL, the 1HP, and the light portion of the TLR-2 are all the same. The only difference in the TLR-2 versus these is that it has a laser on the bottom. So that's the only difference. This does not cover the TLR-3 and 4 because they're dimensionally different and they use a flat battery. They're made for compact rails, so they're shorter than these, and their output's different, not nearly as high. So this only covers the ones that I mentioned here at the top. LED technology has far surpassed incandescent weapon lights, and if you haven't taken advantage of it in recent years and you have an old light, you should definitely replace it. So what have been my experiences with the TLR-1S? Well, I purchased it a few years ago. It produces 160 to 180 lumens. I'm not positive on the exact rating because Streamlight doesn't list the rating anymore because the new one outputs 300 lumens. But it's got a nice hot spot with good spill, and I'll give you a little demonstration here in the dark against my wall. So if you notice, good hot spot, good spill. And this actually is, the battery's a little bit low on this one right now. And I'll go into more detail about other things that have affected with that, with the gun or whatever and the light. But the battery's low, so that's not the whole functionality of this light. It actually has more potential. I just wanted to get it in with this soon, and I haven't been able to buy any batteries. So it has a sleek design. It's waterproof, 1 meter for 30 minutes. That's straight from Streamlight's website. It's lightweight, about 5 ounces. That's also from Streamlight's website. I'm not sure if that includes batteries or not. It uses CR123 batteries, and they're pretty easy to get to. Flip open this gate, pop it open, push down, boom, batteries. And you see it has a gasket here around the batteries. It also has a gasket around the lens. So, it's very well made, and you can tell that this would be definitely 100% water resistant, and then waterproof, 1 meter for 30 minutes. It's pretty easy to actuate. It's a bit trickier to activate the strobe on the older ones, and for some reason the strobe does not work when the battery's low. And I've been through, I think, 2 or 3 sets of batteries with this one. What you're supposed to be able to do to get it to strobe is you double tap up and you hold, and it's supposed to strobe, or you go partially down and then finish it and it's supposed to strobe. But this one isn't doing it right now. And what I've noticed is when I put new batteries in this thing, it, for whatever reason, strobes, and then the old batteries won't. So that's just something with this one. And I did notice on the older one, if I'm actuating it with my trigger finger, like if it's in front of the trigger guard and I try to double tap up, I never was able to hit it fast enough. But I will say they improved it on the new one, and I'll go into more detail of that later. But as far as I can tell, if the battery's low, it won't strobe, which kind of sucks, but maybe I should replace the batteries anyway. It comes with mini rail mounts in the box. If you look at this one, it says 92 for Beretta right there, but they also have standard 1913 rail, which is pretty common for most of them, and I think that's a 1913 rail on my shotgun, but this fits just fine. And to be able to mount one of these, you rotate this little guy here, and as you can see, it's got a little spring right there, and it opens this up, and that's how you put it on there on the rail. So very easy to take off and put back on, mount, remount, whatever, and fits a lot of different rails, so I do like that. One thing that I do like about combat lights anyway, just as an aside, regardless of which one it is, it's very good training for new shooters, because if you notice, it puts weight directly onto the muzzle. So yeah, it makes the gun heavier, but it puts weight directly onto the muzzle. So in terms of felt recoil for a new shooter, if you don't have a 22 to start them on or something and they're recoil sensitive, this is a great aid. It does make the gun heavier, but it makes it heavier onto the muzzle and directly negates recoil since, there's no snap motion at all. So if I'm starting a new shooter, I like to put them on, this one with some of my hand loads, my Beretta with some of my hand loads, or my 1911 with some of my light hand loads, and then it feels almost like a 22. It's really not that bad. So it's a good way to start them. It's also good training for you if you want to work on your follow-up shots, and then you can move on to without it or whatever you want really. But it does negate recoil. So I do like that as a weapon light in general. They do have a remote door switch available now. You just replace this whole back plate, and it's got like a little opening there where you plug in you just plug a switch in, and a wire goes to a pressure switch. So you can mount the pressure switch on on the fore end or anywhere else on your rifle or shotgun if you want to be able to remotely activate it. Those are available on Midway, not sure of the price, but if you want them, they're there. So now the Streamlight TLR-1HL. I purchased it this week. It's dimensionally and functionally identical to the 1S. As you can see, dimensionally identical. They fit the same holsters. The only real difference is that little ribbing there, and I'm going to go into more detail in that in a minute. But the biggest difference in these two, they fit the same holsters. This one outputs 630 lumens. So while battery life may be lower, it is considerably brighter. So here I'll show you against my wall again the difference in light. So 630 lumens, and it's hard to really show how bright it is here, since you're not here in person. And then here is my partially dead TLR-1S. Pretty big difference. And then also to get this thing to strobe, you either double tap up and you hold it, you see it'll strobe, or you can partially move down and then hold it and it'll strobe again. My dog's freaking out right there. Or you can double tap up and then bring it down and it'll keep strobing. It is easier to activate the strobe on the newer ones, I've noticed. You don't have to double tap nearly as quickly. You can do it with your trigger finger. So I do like that, and it's a good light. So in more detail on the HL now. Yeah, it has lower battery life because the output is so much higher. It does use a different lens. I can't tell if it's glass or some sort of polycarb, but you see the reflector bowl on this one is much more intense than that one. See, that one's just got a little reflector. This one's got like a whole projector deal. So, and also the front of this thing, it does say hot there. So I guess if you run it for a while, it'll get hot because the output is so much higher. But your fingers shouldn't really be in front of the muzzle anyway, so that doesn't really matter. It's pretty bright at night, and I will say it causes my RMR reticle to virtually disappear. So if I'm looking through this sight at night and I turn on, you see the little triangle there, and I turn on the light, it pretty much disappears. You can't really see it here, and maybe because the lights are on, it's not as prominent. But at night, since that light is so bright, it does drown out the reticle. Good thing I can co-witness to these, but that is something to note. The strobe feature is easier to actuate than the older one I have. I mentioned that. So how do I like it? I love my Streamlights. I think they're great. They're rugged. They've never stopped working. The only issue I guess I have is the fact that when the battery's low on my old one, it won't strobe. I'll see in time if that same thing happens with this one, but right now I can't test it because it's new. Surefire lights may be easier to activate. I'm not really sure. And they're overall shorter than comparable Surefire lights, but they are thicker. So Surefire lights are a little longer. These are a little thicker. But I like Streamlight. I heard they're a good company. I love their products. So that's the review. If you have any questions, just post in the comments and I'll answer them.